Okay, so Nier Automata version 1.1a part 2. Jesus Christ, that name is worse than the fucking Attack on Titan one. No, it's not. No, it's not. It really isn't. Okay, so this one, I would definitely really like it. I've been really liking it a lot. But obviously, we have to talk about part 1, so I gotta talk about part 2. And part 2, the best way I can explain it is that if you are not if you haven't played Nier, and you've never consumed any type of Nier content, right? Then like you're going into the story, it's a slow burn. Season 1 probably didn't really either ling on to you or didn't do much because there's not that much to latch on. So I completely get it. I will say this: while I am liking Nier so far, but I do think it is better translated in a video game than an anime because there's a lot more personal interaction and a lot more of yourself you put in while you're playing versus the anime that you're just watching. And I think the type of story that Yoko Taro was trying to tell benefits from it being a game because you're putting in those hours and you're putting in that time. So when you're telling that story, it's so much more, it is unironically so much more impactful. I will say that right now. Because watching part 1 of this is just like, I get it, I understand it, and I understand what you're trying to do. It also could just be, I basically know what's going to happen. So maybe the mystique is gone. But here's the thing. That was for my non-Nier players, my non-Nier Automata players, people who haven't played to be fair, all I ever played was Nier. But like, people who like are way deeper than I am, like my buddy, or the co-host for our other podcast, Bugfang, where he's into shit. That motherfucker is into shit. He played like fucking Dragon and all that shit like way back then, right? But for us who's played Nier, if you've played Nier Automata and you're watching this, you're confused. You're either confused, scratching your head, or you are panicking. You are panicking because the first part, right? It plays pretty similar, right? It plays pretty similar. You see some of the missions you do. You're playing it all night. You see like the natural progression. It's fine, right? And like, obviously, I was questioning it a bit because there's certain characters that get more attention than they would in the game. Now, that's obviously for anime purposes because, you want to get people invested in these characters. So I understand that aspect, right? I understood those little changes that happen here and there. I get that. I understand that. I caught that. I caught that aspect of it. And then they start making, because like you see the 1.1, so you just assume it's gonna be small changes. Then it starts making big changes. Then it starts making like really big, like goddamn changes. And you sit there and you're kind of confused. And you're like, oh. And then there's a major plot point. I don't know if I should say it because I want people to experience the story of Nier. If I'm being completely honest. But there's a major plot point that happens. You know what? Fuck it. I'll say it. I mean, just listen. Okay. I'll be this guy. I know I've already said stuff before, but obviously if you're watching these episodes, I probably should have given a spoiler a warning ahead of time. But I guess one now. If you don't want to know the story of Nier, you want to keep that to yourself. I can't talk about this without not talking about the spoilers. So I'm gonna go into that right now. I'm just telling you all right now. I'm going into that spoiler territory. But there are two like very developed robots that get born, Adam and Eve. And so for the most of it, it follows that story, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to the desert, we see what's wrong, we see that Adam and Eve are born, we get all this, but then they start making some like little changes, certain people go out that aren't supposed to go out. They like go scavenge, they change some stuff. And the biggest thing that happened to me, because like there's a point of just like, oh yeah, 9S gets captured, 2B has to rescue him, and so we have to go inside the weird realm that Adam and Eve created to try to go save him. That makes sense. That's all fine and dandy. That is a perfectly logical thing that makes sense. And so in the original story of this, right? In the original story of this, we have Adam and 2B fighting. Adam, like, basically at the end of the fight, like, he can't fight anymore. So he sits there and he's just like, I'm willing to accept death. Come at me. And in the game, 2B stabs at him, walks away, saving 9S. And you see Eve very distraught. And like the subsequent scenes with Eve is like he's mourning over his brother because he was like, you know, it was his older brother. He's mourning over it. He's going kind of crazy. His angers affected the rest of the robots. And we get this big fight outside of the entrance of the tower where it is Eve, who is, I don't know if I'd call him corrupted, but he becomes bigger, he gets affected, right? And he's just like, oh yeah, like, I'm big as fuck, I'm fighting. You see the two girls, like, you know, there's like the hacky stuff. But this time around, it's not Adam. It's not Adam that dies. This time around, instead of Adam falling, Eve falls. So that's the big first change. And then the second big change, and then we see like the course of that is that Adam's the one that gets corrupted. And I don't remember if we get the big thing or not. But the fight itself turns like a bit different, right? Where Eve, it was like it was in the crater, and it was just kind of 2B and him. Although I don't know if that's also the same thing that happens. I actually kind of fucking forgot. But basically, like there's big changes when it comes to the actual like end of what is basically Route A to Route B of Nier Automata. Where like, oh yeah, we're not fighting Eve, we're fighting Adam. That's actually insane. But like the other big like spoiler parts is like pretty revealed for the most part, right? We still get the reveal that like Yoha is kind of a cover, like all this type of stuff, like with the Hagen 9S and like him like looking into the details. He meets like the machine gods or the machine lords that kind of reveal that to him, and it's just like, oh shit, I like kind of know these files. What the fuck? This is actually kind of fucking insane. Okay. But so now we're in part 2, right? So now I'm like, cause like Yoko Taro's Yoko Taro. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Listen, you gotta understand, Yoko Taro is a very, very weird man. Alright? And he's a man that likes making weird shit. And so I can't tell if this is a 1.1 in the sense of like, oh, I'm just making this, I'm just changing some stuff for the anime. Or if this is like an actual separate timeline that like is happening. And I can't tell really because in the first episode of part 2, we see what we see is it's an episode. So like it starts with I don't know if it starts like that, but like the in the beginning they help like this other android who's trying to find a Yorha android, because these are the resistance androids, but then they're trying to find the Yorha androids who is just like, oh, I lost her in the machine stuff. And this does happen, right? From what I remember, this does happen. Where, like, we find the robot, and the girl's there, and she realizes, like, oh, yeah, I'm the one that killed her. And it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm actually also a Yorha bot. I'm an E unit, or I forget, it's product number, but it's, like, something E. And, like, the E unit bot, or the E unit android, kills herself. And her last words is to 9S saying, be careful. And now this plays out. Now, here's the thing. Eventually, we find out what I'm about to tell you. Bro, like, I'm saying we find this out, like, I think that we find this out, like, either towards the end or some shit, right? We find this out, towards the end. Towards the end. But instead, what we get is a sequence of 2B and 9S, like, doing this, like, reconnaissance mission. And they're, like, in a desert, and we basically get the sense that, like, 2B is trying to kill 9S. And then at this point, it's revealed that 2B is not actually 2B. 2B is 2E. Like, 2B is actually, like, an execution unit. And that she is sent there to basically make sure that if the scanning unit does anything, the scanning unit gets fucking burnt. Basically. That the scanning unit gets fucking burnt. And I can't remember if they fight and they both die. Do they both die? I don't remember. But they do have a fight. And that aspect never happened to the games. Because I think like right after that, right after the Adam and Eve fight, I think what happens is that like right after the Adam and Eve fight, we do get this in episode 2, where they're like going after the last battle. But basically, the first episode of part 2, that never, like, part of that happens, but that fight like never happens. So that fucked with me. I'm also pretty sure that like 2P is very much involved in this fight, like directly, like he has a suit and anything, but we don't see her really at all in this fight. Like, she's sent out during the little guerrilla warfare. I'm pretty sure she is like directly involved in like the main fight between the machines and robots. Because after Adam and Eve are gone, they're just like, all right, full scale comeback, start destroying their factories, start doing this stuff. Forget this is our Hail Mary tactic, right? And they think they're winning. They think they're doing their thing, and an EMP shot drops. Now, I did like this because I think, for the most part, we only really see the androids in front of us. But what the anime does is they actually like go towards like other android pairings, which is also somber because we see another reboot of 9S, and he doesn't have a partner, and it's kind of just like, it's like, oh, why am I alone? Why don't I have anybody? And it's kind of like sad because it's just like, oh, we know why you don't have anybody. And that's really sad. But it fucks with me, right? Because this whole thing fucks with me. Also, by the way, I want to bring it up. Just animation for shows, it's goated. It's goated. It's already good. It's already good. I'm glad that they kept up with the animation level because it's really good. But man, oh man. I have no, like, I when I started this series, I was confident this was just going to, there was going to be like little changes because I'm like, okay, it's the anime. There's some things that you can't translate from video games to anime, so you got to make some changes. I wasn't expecting plot point changes. I wasn't expecting plot point changes that are like, I don't know if I go as far as say fundamentally changing the show, but it is changing the goddamn show to something that is like, it has become where it's like it is different enough. It is different enough to where it's just like, no, this is not. It's like still the same story beats, but it's like the core aspect is happening. And I think that first episode fucked with me, and him and 2B not being with 9S in the second episode is also fucking with me. So it makes me think. Because like, since it's not out, I won't say anything about this. But there is a major thing that happens. I wonder if how that happens changes. Because what I suspect is that it's going to be a more direct situation rather than a misunderstanding situation. So that's going to be interesting. It's also going to be interesting what they do for the finale. That's the one that's really going to impress me. So, man. But shit, I don't really know what else to talk. Like, I just kind of in a panic because this whole Nier Automata just scrambled my brain so much to where it's like, I don't know what to believe, what not to believe. It's just, it's messing with me, man. Like, aggressively messing with me. But, I guess I go as far with episode rankings. Also, yeah, we ranked the Suicide Squad anime episodes. So for this one, I think I go as far as say episode. I think it was 13. Episode 13 for this gets a 9 out of 10 because that was so good. And then I think I'd call both of these. No. Episode 14, 8.5. It was good, but it didn't hit that same, like, what the fuck. Like, I almost got out of my chair. Like, I had to rewind multiple times in episode 13 to sit there and be like, oh, no, what the fuck. And I did before for that one, but, like, it did get a much of a big reaction for that one. So, yeah, episode 13, 9 out of 10, and then episode 14 is an 8.5 out of 10.